Good morning, Internet. Zach here, and just thought I would give a little bit of an update on the Bronco. It's been like 4 months, and really I haven't worked on the thing except for the past probably month. Finally got it up and running, licensed so that I can start driving it around and find all of the real problems that it has. But if you watched the previous video, you saw there was quite a few issues. Well, I found more. Fixed some, but there are still some to go. First thing is I got some bigger wheels and tires. I just traded a guy who had these and he didn't need them, so I put the ones that were on it on his truck, and he's parting it out, so it didn't really matter. So these are some old 35 1250 BFGs on some old school aluminum rims, which I prefer, so it was actually a pretty good trade. I've done a little bit of body work, more like sanding off some signage that probably isn't appropriate. So it does need a little touch-up paint. The back window is in. I stole that out of the parts Bronco that I got, which is right over there. It is slowly being dismantled for other rigs that I have. But that was a big one, getting not only this in, but getting the motor to work, getting the electronics to work, which the electrical in this thing is a terrible story that is just ongoing. But I did get the motor to run, got the window in, got everything to work. I still need to switch this out with a better one because this is all dented. Got the straps on the tailgate, got a new cover for the ugly spare tire, and I also rehung most of the exhaust, just kind of temporarily for now, but it was all hanging down because the motor mount had broke and ripped them all loose. So I got that fixed. And as far as the other things that were missing on it, I did get the driver's side window in, which it was out of the parts Bronco. It's a little scratched up, but it does the job. The other thing about most of these Broncos, they all have power windows, and they didn't work. So I went through all the wiring, stole a bunch out of the parts Bronco, and got those all back together. Got the interior back together for the most part. It was not great. It hasn't been cleaned yet, but I did get that back together. Just this morning, I fixed a couple holes in the firewall because I was not feeling very well due to all of the exhaust coming in, because it does have an exhaust leak still. Adjusted the doors so they close right. Didn't really show much under the motor in the motor compartment in the last video, but it actually runs pretty good. It took a while to get things figured out. The carburetor was clogged up. So I took it apart, cleaned it up, and got it going and adjusted. The alternator was brand new, but not working. It kept on overheating the main line over here that runs everything. It kept on burning up this fuse, and so I found out that most of the ground wires in this thing were rusted and not doing their job, so it just kept on frying everything. So slowly going through that, I got it to work. Alternator charges, doesn't blow anything anymore. There's still a few things. The dome lights inside don't work. I did get the fan for the heater to work, which it was disconnected and the switch was broken, but I got that out of the parts Bronco. And the only thing that's really not working other than the dome light, the interior lights, is I got the back window to go up and down, but I tried to roll it up the other day from inside and it keeps on just frying the fuse. So I got to track that down. It still rolls up and down with the key at the back, but it doesn't work in here. It only rolls down, doesn't roll up. So there is a grounded out wire somewhere. So I'll continue looking for that. But I've gotten quite a bit of it taken care of. There's still quite a bit to go. There's little things such as all of the silicone right here because they didn't bother to put the top on correctly. It's out of whack, and so there was a huge gap here, so they just filled it up with silicone, which really isn't necessary because these things don't need silicone. They have a drain system and a gasket and everything. So maybe in the spring I'll take the top off and redo it, but it can just leak for now because it's cold here in Oregon, and I'm not gonna go topless with this thing at the moment. You can see it doesn't exactly line up like it's supposed to. But it's the little things. I got a few more parts to take off of the parts Bronco over there. In fact, I'll show that to you. I actually got this thing 3 months ago, I think, 2 or 3 months ago. Guy was selling it for $800. It ran and drove, but it had been rolled over. So I have since robbed a whole bunch of the parts out of it, robbed the motor out and sold it. I've taken most of the interior apart. As you can see, it's got the wiring harness all loose, it's not out yet. Sold the seats, sold a couple other miscellaneous parts, stole the windows out of it. I stole the third member out of it for this Bronco because it's making noise. But there's a lot of good parts on it. I'll continue taking the rest of the stuff, including the air conditioning and probably the whole rear axle. Use it for a couple other projects that I have. But pretty good score. Got my money out of it so far. But the one thing I wanted to show on this Bronco is the is the bad news. So everything else is coming together, and I was underneath it and I found this little gem here. As you can see, that is a plate that has been welded because the cross member broke, which this is a very common break for these. I have the exact same break on my 1980 F-150, and they didn't do a real great job of fixing it, but it is scabbed together. It looks like it is kind of holding, but what do you do? That's a really tough spot to fix. So I'm just, as they say, gonna send it. Hope it holds. Probably not jump it anytime soon. So, and changing a Ford Bronco frame is not exactly something that I want to do. So I just kind of have to live with it. So anyways, that is the latest update on the 85 Ford Bronco. Still a lot of work to do to it, but now that it's running and driving, it's kind of an incentive to get all these little things fixed and make it somewhat nice. It's never going to be a beauty queen, but it is going to run good, and it's going to hit the mud and have some fun this winter. So yeah, that's it. We'll see y'all next time.